Welcome to our show. Welcome to our show. It's a good show. Big, big shoe. It's really huge. Welcome to...
Greetings from Tromaville. This is Lloyd Kaufman, president of Troma Entertainment, creator of the Toxic Avenger and professional foot fetishist. You're listening to Talkin Troma with Zack Bynes, but the actual way to pronounce it is Zack Beans, like Hilla beans. And let me tell you, the Talkin Troma webcast is a podcast. It's you don't need to see it. It's so visual in your ears. In fact, you can taste it. Talkin Troma by Zack Beans. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
It's really huge. Welcome to the show.
Tromaville, and welcome to the season finale of season 2 of Talkin Troma with your host, me, Zack Bynes. This is a very special episode, one that I've been waiting to do for a while. But before I really crack into anything, I want to thank everybody who's been out there supporting the show, listening, reaching out on the social medias. I definitely appreciate that. And I got some big news for the show. I'm going to announce it here. But it has been picked up by the Loudspeaker network. So what that means is I will get some better equipment to record with. So the shows will sound better. They'll actually have an audio engineer, so they will sound better than what I'm doing on my own. And just, some more research resources. So it's pretty exciting. I can't wait for that, and they're gonna be bringing season 3 coming to your ear hole shortly. So stay tuned for that. But really, let's crack into why we're all here, and let's hear my interview with the man himself, Mr. Lloyd Kaufman.
Hotel with the Troma team from Denver, including Maggie, a.k.a. Super Tromet, Dysmorphia.
That's better than the last Tromet name you gave her. Do you remember that one?
I chose my own, thank you.
Yeah, you are very intellectual, Dysmorphia. You read a lot, I know, but is that why you think you have a big vocabulary, or is it... your folks or something, or? But you must read a lot. No joke. Yeah.
How to Make Movies by Lloyd Kaufman. How to Make Your Own Damn Movie.
Oh, thank you.
It's very
and where the red fern grows.
I can't read that. That makes me cry when they killed the dogs.
Yeah.
There's only one other time I cried when a dog was killed.
And what was that?
Old Yeller.
I was gonna say Toxic Avenger.
No,
I can't handle it in in Toxic Avenger it's comical, but I can't handle whenever they're killing animals and something. I don't want to watch that.
Yeah, that's why I don't recommend
agree,
you watch
yeah.
Wes Anderson movies, because he hates you for that.
I don't recommend Wes Anderson movies is because he is pretentious.
What? Oh, come on now.
Do you like? Well,
now you have to take that out.
I'll cut that out.
You're going to get canceled for that.
I was already
canceled
when I was in film school. There was the kids who wanted to make Reservoir Dogs. There was the kids who wanted to make Wes Anderson movies, and then there was me and Richard who wanted to make Troma movies. And so we were canceled.
I was in film school too, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. What about Maggie?
What did you want to make though in film school?
I made music videos.
Music videos are fun.
Yeah.
I love making music videos.
And live was very difficult to sync up with.
Maybe Maggie can come closer and get.
No, I'm gonna record something with Maggie
I'm just
later.
giving him a bunch of shit.
No, it's it makes it more entertaining that way.
No, Lloyd, this is gonna be you and me.
Stupidest questions, and and my answers are going to be totally worthless. So you actually have a brain here, and it'd be nice.
Can't forget that we went to film school together.
No, it's true. We did. And Maggie was one of the few people. Well, it's funny because we met on Cannibal Girl and Incest Boy. She was.
Oh, how romantic!
So yeah, it
was a misled romance.
Who? I can't remember who was that did that movie. That movie.
That was me and Richard.
Oh, all right.
And Maggie. Well, we crushed your head outside of Curly's store in Albuquerque.
Ah, that's it.
I mean, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, no wonder I can't remember my head.
Don't worry, though. We're going to go back
crushed,
further than 2007.
I'm glad it inflated again.
Yes.
Yeah, the head's back to full format.
Yeah. Because
Yeah. That was I miss Troma Dance in Park City.
oh well, it sure is nicer where we do it now. It's so
it's
much
not
more
15
fun.
degrees.
Yeah, it's great, and you've got a huge crowd, and you've got the drive-in projection that's beautiful. So the kids get to see their movies on this huge.
Instead of in Rum Bunnies.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
A ski bar.
Yeah, right.
So trying to turn the volume up on the TV louder than the drunk guy ordering.
Yeah,
his
exactly.
booze. Although the Broovies was really
Broovies
nice.
had pretty decent, and it was free.
Yeah.
It was free in Broovies too.
Well, but it was cool. Like I had to pick Karen Black up for one of the panels.
I remember that. Right. It
and
was.
Then I don't remember if it's you or Gabe, but you're like, Zach, you need to clean your fucking car up because you got to get Karen Black from the airport.
Yeah, it was kind of a wreck of a car. I remember it was like,
because we filmed Cannibal Girl and a bucket of blood flipped over on one of the seats, so I just put newspaper over it, like a bad dog.
But Karen was so nice. She wasn't she? I mean, she
was so nice.
She didn't care about that kind of stuff. Whereas Lynn Lowry was kind of like Karen Black, very open-minded and. And Karen was a really beautiful person. I was very
that movie you guys made together, the little silly short on some of the Troma Dance, the vampires like
that
Los
was
Monstros.
her. She had this idea. I had nothing to do with it. Karen Black just out of the blue wanted to do that exactly the way we shot it.
Yeah.
And to this moment, I forgot about it. Thank you for remembering.
So what I've been doing is I've been going through all my old VHS tapes and every single Troma DVD and uploading every special feature to archive it so people can see it. Right now I have a disc of every single Troma Team video introduction that you and Michael have done.
Oh, great.
And that's
How cool is that, Maggie?
There's no archive of that anywhere. Maybe on Troma. Now I might send John.
No, I don't think there is.
I might send John those things, at least a special
make sure
feature.
I'm in on that when you do that so that I know it's there.
It's just, even if like some of like the the quote advertisements aren't valid anymore, it's
what? It's great. Yeah,
it's nice like to see like Brick Bronski, rest in peace.
Yeah,
to see him promoting this stuff like back then, or Jane Jensen doing these things is really cool.
Yeah.
We're good whenever you're ready.
Cool.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, I'm going to do this all official. Good morning, Tromaville, and welcome to a very special episode of Talkin Troma with your host, me, Zack Bynes. And this is the episode I'm pretty sure everybody has been waiting for. I know I've been getting messaged about it. And I have a very special guest right across the table from me. I had to do this live. I couldn't do it over Zoom because it wouldn't be appropriate. The creator of the Toxic Avenger, president of Troma Entertainment, and my mentor and hero, Lloyd Kaufman.
Zack Beans, come over and give me a hug.
Ooh.
You're the son I always wanted but never had.
You're so soft.
Oh man, talk about Elijah Wood. Huh? I got some wood.
Got my Peter Dinklage.
Get back to your side of the table.
So, one of the things I've been trying to do with this show is show that Troma actually means a lot more than just the Toxic Avenger Class of Nukem High. You've been a shining beacon in the storm of the big Hollywood system for the indie filmmakers for almost 50 years now. And you've helped myself and my friend Richard Taylor out. You've helped countless other indie filmmakers out, just getting our voices out there and getting other filmmakers' voices out there. And you see merit in what other indie filmmakers are doing. And I do want to thank you right off the top for doing that.
Well, thank you very much, Zach. And thank you and Richard for driving out from Denver to Buffalo to sleep on the floor and learn how to defecate in a paper bag on Poultrygeist, Night of the Chicken Dead. And Gabe Friedman and I immediately fell in love with you guys.
I don't know if I've ever told you this story, how I got introduced to Troma. And I know I've mentioned it on my first episode, but, you know, if you've heard this before, fuck everybody, it's my show. So one of my buddies knew I was a huge Trey Parker and Matt Stone fan, and I loved basketball in the South Park, but I haven't really seen too much more. And he said, hey, do you want a copy of this movie Cannibal the Musical? I'll bootleg it for you. And I was like, oh, that sounds so cool. He's like, but I think I'll put the trailers on that are before that. They're by this like weird company called Troma, and I think you might like their movies. And I was like, all right, I'll check it out. And little did I know that me telling him to include the trailers for Cannibal the Musical would change my life like more than I could ever imagine.
Wow. Well, what a great honor to hear that, let me tell you. Michael Hers would be very proud if he was sitting right here.
Yeah, he'll just slide the cease and desist right over the table.
No,
for my
not
show.
at all. He loves you guys. He just doesn't appear in public, but he's very appreciative.
I would like to talk to Michael one day.
Yeah,
just
well,
even on a personal level. I just to say thank you. I've never met him.
Yeah.
I would love to.
Yeah, we just have to explain to him, and he's a good guy.
Yeah.
He's a very good guy. He just doesn't. Once we got successful, he didn't want to do any more publicity. He didn't like that kind of stuff.
It's kind
Even though Michael is infinitely more entertaining, much faster on the draw than I am, and much wiser, and knows when to shut up. But he doesn't want to be out there.
One day, we'll get him on the show at some point.
No,
Maybe.
I think because of you, for you, yes. I think at some point he will do it.
I would love that.
But I tell you, if the New York Times comes in to do a piece on Troma, he won't be part of it.
Well, and
he won't. I know it because we've had other comparable media write-ups, and Michael would disappear. Oh, he went out.
I'm glad you brought up. I'm glad you brought up New York Times. I know they wrote a good review for your newest film, #Shakespeare Shitstorm. But the one thing I'm combating on my show is I like to call it the Troma review, where you just get the sideways, backhanded compliments, and I don't appreciate that. As a fan of Troma films and of your movies, there is a way to talk about your films or the films in the Troma library without being like, it's a bad movie, but they're not bad movies. They're very good films, and you see value in the stuff that you're putting out.
I went to Yale University. I could have been a hedge fund guy. Easy. No problem. I probably could have been governor of New York State. Easy. They're all stupid. So, but because I am stupid, I went into making movies. It's not. I don't do it to make money. I do it for one reason: to make the movies, to not have to answer to anybody. And this is a result. I'm here in a hotel room with Zack Beans and had a few drinks, and Zack Beans is starting to look pretty good to me.
I think because the AC is off and my shirt is slowly getting removed.
You got those eyes.
Well, so you brought up Yale, and I know that's where you first got into movies, really, because of your college roommate.
Yes, you're right, Robert Edelstein.
And can you tell me about some of the films that he was exposing himself for you, or exposing to you? I'm sorry.
No, he was my roommate, so I imagine there was a fair amount of exposition in that department. But no, Robert was head of the Film Society, and the group of them were auteurs. They believed in the auteur theory of movie making, that the filmmaker is the author of the movie, that the movie should reflect the brain and soul and heart of the filmmaker, and should reflect the consistency of style and themes. Since I was his roommate, we're in a tiny bedroom, and our feet are, our beds were head to toe. So at night, inhaling his guitar, smelly feet, eventually I would start drifting into the auditorium to see the movies the Film Society was showing, and I kept getting blown away. Chaplin, Keaton, John Ford, Howard Hawks, Sam Fuller. I never knew Charlie Chaplin was a director and a writer and a songwriter, a musician, and all that, and a roller skater. I mean, I didn't even know what a director was. I was never conscious of the director as a major part of the movie until I went to the Yale Film Society screenings.
And when was it, like in Yale, that you decided you wanted to dabble in making movies? I know you made Rappaccini and The Girl Who Returned right around that time.
Well, my roommate, Robert Edelstein, head of the Film Society, he directed Rappaccini, and I produced it with him. And he bought up Bolex, which, as you may know, Bolex is not a social disease. It's a kind of a Swiss 60mm camera. It's a beautiful machine. But he had one, and Rappaccini was based on Hawthorne's Rappaccini's Daughter, and both Robert and I were Hawthorne freaks. And so I tagged along and helped him produce it, and we showed it at a few colleges. Basically, it's 16mm. It was filmed in my mother's house in New York. We had a fair amount of adventures on it, but it's 16mm black and white, no sync sound because Bolex doesn't have the sync pulse. So narration and sound effects and music, basically. And then Girl of Return was a bit more entertaining.
Well, I'm going to interrupt you real quick. Yeah. I do want to ask. So there's a still of Rappaccini in your book. All I need to know about filmmaking I learned from the Toxic Avenger but that's all I've ever seen of it. Is there a way to see Rappaccini, or do those elements still exist, or is that something that could get uploaded to Troma now?
Well, Robert Edelstein would be the guy to add. It's his film, so.
Just for the completists out there, I think it'd be really interesting to see.
It's also important because Perry King, a fairly serious movie star. Oh, sorry, Perry King that was his first movie. He did the something of Joel Delaney with Shirley MacLaine, Robert Mulligan movie. And he's a great guy, but anyway, he signed up to do Rappaccini, and Roger Kirby's girlfriend at the time, Bep Arnsberg, played the daughter, and we filmed it in my mother's brownstone in New York, which had a garden. We could dress as we rented a lot of plants so it could look like a poisonous garden, and it's Girl of Return is. I don't want to speak for Rappaccini, but Girl of Return is totally unwatchable. And yet we got to play it at maybe 15 colleges, charge $1 a ticket, and run for our lives.
Do you remember what it was like seeing like Girl Who Returned in front of a crowd of people, like the first time like any of your films showed in front of a group of people? How did that feel?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I guess the big deal, I can't really remember. Remember, I graduated in 1968, and 67, I think, is when they showed Girl Who Returned, or maybe they showed Rappaccini 67 and Girl Who Returned 68. It was a huge thing for me. But more important, Girl Who Returned taught me two things. One, once people buy tickets, no matter how bad the movie is, they won't ask for the money back. And two, two movies were being shown that night at the same time. One was Moonrise by Borzage, I think, and the other one was, and it was just a poster. But basically, Borzage was the big deal there, and then they had The Girl Who Returned, which featured an attractive young non-male on their back, kind of with a sweaty T-shirt, and her love pillow was a bit enlarged. And it would look sexy. It had nothing to do with sex, but it was a better poster than the one for Borzage. So we had a pretty big house, and even though the movie is horrible, nobody asked for. So make a poster that's intriguing in some way, and might do okay.
Yeah.
And even if you make a movie that stinks, people are not likely to ask for their money back.
Well, and then, so like right around that time, also you worked in the Peace Corps in Chad.
Not the Peace Corps. No,
I'm sorry.
Nothing about me that had anything to do with peace. You're thinking of the Pizza Corps. I
Ooh.
was very active in the Pizza Corps.
It's a crusty joke. Very cheesy.
Oh, my God. No, I was more in the, not the Peace Corps. I was in the War Corps. I was very against peace. No, very bad. That's bad jokes. So sorry, I did not say that, but probably be taken out of context. Here's what Lloyd Kaufman said right after President Biden said. Lloyd Kaufman said he wants to be in the War Corps. Yeah, actually, it's kind of a clever name, War Corps.
The War Corps.
Yeah.
There's a tagline for another.
Yeah, it was a good book. Good book title.
Special Needs, the War Corps.
Any rate, where were we? We were talking about
I wanted to talk about you're going
serious.
to Chad.
Yeah, Chad was a great life experience.
And you said it was a pretty big point in your book, anyways. You shot some home video and stuff in Chad as well as
not video.
Super
16 millimeter.
Oh, it was 16. Yeah. Do you still have any of that footage you shot in Chad?
Somebody has it.
And
a lot of it was used in a thesis, whatever you want to call it, at Yale, African art, where I intercut dancing in the bush of Chad with dancing in those days, I think it was called black, nightclubs, and then intercutting the style of the coolness, but yet the hotness of both the African dance and I'm thousands of miles away, and the people dancing around with sticks, and the cool nightclub dancing. Very.
Do you think
you could see the roots?
Do you think Yale still has that film like in their archives?
I don't. I don't know. I don't know. I honestly, I just don't. It's one of those things where I always assumed I had it, and then one day I tried to find it, and
Yeah, just over the years it gets.
Yeah. You just suddenly you wake up one way. By the way, where is that man?
And so I know, like after that, you went to go work on some other films. I know you worked for the Cannon Group. Was this before?
By the way, I was not in the Peace Corps. I was a what do you call it? A guinea pig for the Peace Corps. I was there to test the area in Chad. I also was a teacher in the Chad bureaucracy in the bush. We lived without electricity or anything, no phones, and nothing.
Yeah.
But there was plenty of food, so people were pretty healthy and happy, and it's a very interesting, very sophisticated culture in its way. Totally different from what I grew up, which was I grew up on a island of cement called Manhattan, where everything is full of hostility and all that stuff, and where we were, it was people were having a good time, and it was complicated too. It was very, but it didn't fuck up the atmosphere and. Everybody, and now Chad, they don't have enough to eat, because of the so-called what do you call it, gentrification? I don't know, whatever it is. The fact that the cocoa growers in the Ivory Coast have never tasted chocolate because they can't afford it. And there's Rwanda tomato and pepper growers can't really get. They live on $2 a day because all their vegetables have to be sold to a combine, to an oligopoly of white exporters.
Yeah.
Who market way up to the Western world, which is the world responsible for 1/3 of Pakistan being underwater. Right? They didn't do it. We did.
You've been warning us about these corporate elites doing this, going to do this to us for decades, but nobody's listened to you.
Well, not just the corporate elites, the bureaucratic elite, the so-called elected representatives, and the labor elite.
But you've been warning us for
my whole career.
Yeah.
50 years at least.
And nobody took their safe spacia, so nobody listened.
No. Look at the Toxic Avenger Part 4, Citizen Toxie. The whole thing is, I mean, not the whole thing, but abortion is a big part of that. A movie made in 2000, year 2000. And, right?
I'm going to cut you off. We will get to Citizen Toxie, but we're still back in the early days in the Manhattan.
We're never going to get to Citizen Toxie.
Yes, we will.
Maybe we should break this up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm totally down.
Maybe we do up to a certain point, and then we.
Do you want to go through the 70s?
Well, let's just see where we go.
Through the sexy comedies?
Let's see what Maggie says. Thank you.
You're a sexy comedy.
I want to know a little bit more about the time when you worked in Canon Films. Was that Golan and Globus at that time?
No. It was pre-Golan Globus. It was the day of Dewey and Friedland. And nice guys. That was basically my first job. And I was just a shit boy.
Yeah.
But that's where I met John G. Avildsen. Lucky me.
And you worked on, was Joe before Rocky?
Yes. John had made a movie called Guess What I Learned at School Today, which had a couple of other names. And Cannon distributed it. And John also made another movie, Sweet Dreams, and I think Cannon may also have distributed that. And John was working in the editing room, and I was rewinding stuff, so we sort of knew each other. And then they produced Joe, and John took Joe, which was originally called The Gap, which was a mediocre generation gap kind of softcore, sausage, so nothing, just another sausage. And Avildsen hired Norman Wexler to totally rewrite the movie, and became Joe. And it got an Academy Award nomination. Peter Boyle's first movie, Susan Sarandon's first movie, $100,000 and a nomination for Best Screenplay. Made in New York, unknown director, unknown actors. Never have that today. It'd be impossible today. But while they were shooting Joe, they needed a production assistant. And so I was sent from the office where I was filing things and rewinding stuff in the editing room. I was sent to the set toward the beginning of the shoot. And I remember the first day the first day on the set, and I saw the shot that Avildsen set up, looking through a furnace into the furnace. But it was a beautiful shot. I don't remember the exact thing, but I sort of said, "Hey, this is. I think I try to stay with this guy. He looks good." And sure enough, and then Cry Uncle after that, which we still distribute Cry Uncle on.
And it's a really good movie.
Isn't it great? It's hilarious.
It's really funny.
And again, another teardown by John G. Avildsen. This time he hired David Odell to take kind of an adequate, money-making, softcore sort of detective James Bond kind of thing. And Avildsen hired Alan Garfield, beer belly guy, and this tall ostrich-like actor from Tom Irons' The Dirtiest Show in Town, and they look like Bert and Harry Peels, which were one was tall and one was short, and they sold beer on cartoon beer. They were cartoon characters who sold beer, which I guess was cartoon. I don't know. At any rate, very good stuff. Very, very good stuff.
And so,
boy, am I boring? This is
no.
This is awful. This is
it's
terrible.
not though. Like the people want to know about your history making movies. Like it's not really well documented. Like you may think it's boring, but this is important that people know where you came from, because I think a lot of people are like, oh, it's Lloyd Kaufman. He does the boobs and the blood and the Toxic Avenger. And while that may be true, you also have a proper film upbringing. And I don't think people take you... I take you seriously as a filmmaker, but when I read some of these backhanded reviews, I don't know if they understand that you have a proper film upbringing and you know your shit. And I want to dispel that myth that's out there. So I really appreciate you sharing some of this stuff with me. And by the same token, thank you for memorializing Troma and keeping this project going. And my archives, Stan Lee, set up my archives in Oklahoma at the American Heritage Institute, where his archives are. But what you're doing is really interesting, because you've got generations of people, some of whom are already dead, right? Somebody just died recently. Who died recently? Brick Bronsky.
Yeah, Brick died, and David Matty's not. Who knows what's going to happen to him?
I need to get him on soon.
Yeah, you should. You should. He's such a great guy.
But was it around this time, though, with working with John G. Avildsen, did he push you into making your own damn movie with Battle of Love's Return?
No, I made that, I think, before Joe. I remember forcing John Avildsen to watch the Battle of Love's Return on a 16-millimeter projector in his apartment. On West 86th Street in New York, and he had to sit through the whole thing. I had to change reels, and his wife Melissa, they're so nice, so polite. The poor guy.
Well, and if you look kind of at your filmography, there's a little gap, and I know in there for directing wise, you directed some adult films at that time.
I haven't done nothing adult.
No,
everything
I
I've
guess
done is adolescent, which still has boners and stuff like that.
Full penetration,
very juvenile.
But you did do some pornographic films, and I would like to talk to you.
Why
about
do you
that.
say what is pornographic?
Was it so?
What do you mean?
I've seen The Divine Obsession.
Well, that's a beautiful film. What are you talking about?
Well, and honestly,
when you say pornographic, what does that mean?
I think what I mean is...
You mean a movie that has some hardcore sex.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful 35-millimeter film with a score by somebody who went on to do good music. And my roommate at Yale wrote the script. And it's it's a film. It just happens to have
actual
some
sex in there.
double penetration. What are you going to do?
Well,
that's life.
Well, and
right,
I've seen that film, and it has the trademark.
You filthy pig!
I had to
How
put
dare you? You are interviewing me in the podcast. This is an outrage.
I had to put the nickel in the slot, and
no, 25 cents.
And
please.
Yeah, well,
it was not a nickel,
I had plenty of
believe me.
paper towels around, so it was.
Maggie, don't. That's just. It's very low class. Yeah, I'm sorry.
But I do want to know, like, did like Wes Craven and John Carpenter, they cut their teeth also making pornographic movies before they jumped into their more career where it's like The Last House on the Left or Halloween, and the same with you. There's a whole generation of filmmakers who cut their teeth making these movies. Did you learn any lessons from making these films that you brought on to later Troma movies?
Well, you're talking about the movies that were directed by Louis Sue.
Yes, by Louis Sue.
I wrote a book, Produce Your Own Damn Movie, a very good book, and in which I interviewed Louis Su, S.U., and he talks a lot about how because he wrote and was the DP and kind of did his own lighting and definitely did his own camera work, that these movies that you refer to as pornographic.
I think the studio system refers. I'm just appropriating their term.
Oh, well, that's still not very woke to appropriate anything. But at any rate, these are hard-hitting questions. So at any rate, Louis Su got his film school. It was like film school, except that the movies during that period, they came out around the time of Gerard Damiano with Devil and Miss Jones, and they were reviewed on network television. I mean, there was a real period where porno chic, it was called. Porno chic, except didn't have the dissonance or whatever you call it. The not dissonance, when you make the S's. Anyway, it begins with S. Sorry. SAT word.
But what other kind of lessons did you learn from there that you brought on? I know you talk about when you're shooting sex scenes in films now, you try to do those first. Did you have that same mantra back then?
I mean, did Louis
Su? I apologize. You guys look very similar.
I get very emotional whenever you talk about Louis Su. What did I learn? I went to an all-boys high school, and then Yale was all boys, so I got to learn a lot about sex, let me tell you.
So
I couldn't fathom stuff that we filmed. It wasn't in my, even though I went to Africa, I don't recall anything like what's in those movies.
I have it from a good source that elements of those films or the negatives still exist. Is there any way that those are going to get some sort of proper like Blu-ray release? I know Vinegar Syndrome does put out those type of films and they restore the negatives. Oh. And I think for myself personally and the collector, it's really interesting to see like you or John Carpenter or Wes Craven's work in that field, just as a whole body of work to see where you came from. Or where Louis Su came from, I'm sorry.
A whole naked body of work. I mean, you just want to see some naked people. No. You are such a pervert. That's so sneaky of you to even, to try to get me to fall for that one. No way, buddy. This is just this is part of film history.
No, it is a part of.
Oh, yeah. You just want to. You're thinking of. I've been married too, buddy. I know.
You got to take it where you can.
Worship the bishop. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
I do want to say though, I do think the interest is out there. To see these films, and I would like to see them get restored.
Would too, yeah, but I don't have control.
Gotcha.
There are other individuals involved.
Okay.
3-1.
Well, if Talkin Troma counts, then you got a .025. You can add to that one.
No, not a chance. No, I'm afraid this is going to be like Forgotten Silver. People are going to have to hunt through the jungle. And did you see? Well, Forgotten Silver, no? Well, we talked about it.
I think we did once before.
It's Kevin. What's his? Peter Jackson's documentary, a fake documentary. Yeah. It's wonderful about sort of a Cecil B. DeMille negative that's buried deep somewhere in the jungle, and it's all that's left of this.
Yeah, that's right. Peter produced that one. Yeah, no, that's interesting that you would compare the two on there, because it's like it is still, as he's alluding to, it is part of film history, because I think it's helpful for young filmmakers to also realize, well, hey, we all start from someplace. And then it kind of helps dispel the myth of just like, well, I got offered a Hollywood gig right away. It's like everybody cuts their teeth on strange bedfellows once or twice in their career before they go to the thing they're meant to do.
That's almost a line from The Tempest. Hashtag Shakespeare shitstorm, too. No joke.
Well, and one thing I do want to say about those films is they definitely carry your signature sense of humor in there, which you've later brought over to the sexy comedies like Squeeze Play, Stuck on You, Waitress, and The First Turn On. I do want to talk about those sexy comedies. What made you want to go in the comedy route instead of like doing like a drama film? Or could you ever picture yourself making a full-on drama?
No, never. I mean, I would love to get a script that is, really great, that is serious. That'd be wonderful. But I've not. I certainly can't create one. And I've always loved comedy, and luckily Michael Hers seems to be okay with it. And I don't like the idea of losing money on every movie, but we do enjoy the films we end up with.
I do like, you can see some of your influences quite a bit in the sexy comedies, and it may be one of my favorite eras in your career. Like you see like the Keystone Cops or like the Marx Brothers and Chaplin elements. Can you talk a little bit more about just some of the comedy inspirations you pulled while making those films?
Well, certainly Keaton in Toxic Avenger Part 2. He's got these totally Keaton.
Yeah.
It's random too. Why? Supposedly because she's blind, but that's absurd. But I did it because of the Keaton film that had things hanging from the, a little bit Rube Goldberg-ish.
Yeah.
But basically Keaton. And there was another Keaton one where a Toxie wants to commit suicide, and he walks into a tunnel.
Yes.
And that's right away from Keaton.
And there's the two motorcycles.
Yeah. And Keaton's was bicycles.
Well, and I rewatched Waitress again not too long ago, and that movie reminded me a lot of hashtag Shakespeare shitstorm, just the pandemonium of the crowd behind the actors. Like there's constant action in every frame of those movies. Can you talk about, like, in Waitress, how it was directing that many people on screen at the same, because everybody has something just unique and silly they're doing, and that's a theme that kind of goes across your whole like body of work.
No, that's interesting. No, it's a good question. But I very much love the slapstick stuff and the idea that we have the action going on in the foreground between the two, and then in the background people are strangling each other and people, all sorts of goofy stuff, elephants going past. I just find that amusing. So I spent a lot of time on the shtick, as they call it. And Stuck on You was heavily inspired by Tom Lehrer and
Stan Freberg?
Yes, sorry, microphone. Stan Freberg, and if you haven't heard their songs, Stan Freberg did a record called Stan Freberg, Freeberg, Discovers America, wonderful, and Tom Lehrer also satirical songs and wonderful wordplay, that kind of stuff. So check out Tom Lehrer, and I think we're going to use his hunting song.
Oh,
Tom Lehrer's hunting song in Curse of the Weird Deer, directed by Ben Johnson.
That I saw the trailer, or some teasers that they've done for that in stills, and I love the hunting song. We should have got our permit.
That's good for you. That's way before your time. Man.
I grew up listening to like the Dr. Demento show and reading Mad Magazine.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge Mad Magazine nerd. And I know that you're a New York staple. And so was Mad Magazine, back before they moved to LA and got bought by the comic book conglomerates. But can you talk about, I know you've met some of the people at Mad Magazine, and can you talk just in your life, what are some of your favorite stuff from that Mad Magazine?
Well, I have not really met too many people from Mad. My favorite was Don. He was always my favorite, and my father, my brother, We all loved his characters.
Don Martin.
Yes, that's it. Don Martin. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, we all loved Don Martin, and I finally, years later, well after he had split Mad, I got introduced to him and I was like a little fanboy, and he was like, and I was like, it's such an honor, and he was like, but he moved along, It was like,
Well, he would have to. He always had the crazy sound effects behind all of
yeah, that's true. You're right. Brack.
his characters. And I know, like, you had copies of Mad Magazine as like kind of sight gags in like the Toxic Avenger 2
Yeah.
and other movies. But how did it feel when
Thank you.
when Mad Magazine did a parody of the Toxic Avenger?
The Trump toxic pretender or something.
Yeah.
That was pretty amazing. After 34 years, Toxie becomes part of the lexicon. I mean, comparing him to Trump,
Yeah.
or Trump to him, hey, I'll take it. It was great. It was nicely done.
And kind of in that comic book vein, you were also really good friends with Stan Lee.
I searched out Stan Lee whilst I was at Yale toward the end of the road. And because I had discovered the comic books, next door were a big pile of them, next door to my Yale room. So I saw these beautiful comic books with clever, where the pencil guy or the inker. I'd never heard of these terms.
Yeah.
But they had funny alliteration names, I can't remember, but at any rate, Steve Ditko,
Yeah.
Swinging Steve Ditko, or that kind of. Plus the art was so beautiful, so I searched out Stan and tried to get a job, and we kind of stayed in touch, and he's in a bunch of our movies. And
Yeah.
Hashtag Shakespeare's Shitstorm is dedicated to Stan Lee, along with John G. Avildsen and my stepmother, Sigrun.
And I know you guys wrote a film together, at least one. I don't know if you've wrote more than one. It never got produced. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, we didn't really.
Well, it was
we
like
never
a
did
screenplay,
anything.
but it was like Night of the Witch, right?
Yeah, but nothing ever happened.
But I still think that's interesting to think about, that you and Stan Lee wrote something together.
Well, we
and
didn't
then,
really write it together. It was just I just had to.
Did he like pitch you an idea, or
It was kind of an idea, but we had already talked about it, and he didn't really have much to do with it, to be honest.
But
I tried to get him involved, but I never could really. It was, and at the end, it was made very clear to me that they didn't want anything to do with it. Not Stan, but the partner.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just think it's kind of fun that you had, that friendship with Stan, and later down the road with James
well,
Gunn.
he was a big fan. He was a great fan. He just thought his thing was, and obviously, Toxie is heavily influenced by Spider-Man, and the whole Troma universe is Stan Lee and Marvel.
And I kind of moving on a little bit from that, but on the superhero vein, into the Toxic Avenger a bit. I don't know too much else to say about Toxie that hasn't been said before, but I do want to know, with all of your films, not just the Toxic Avenger, you tackle major themes that are going on in the world, and that's definitely a conscious choice. When you could make a movie that has nothing to say, why has that always been kind of important in your work?
Well, just my education, and I had a left-wing grandmother who was full of piss. And I mean, literally, if she said the word Nixon, or somebody said the word Nixon, she would literally spit on the ground. Didn't matter where we were. It could be on a heirloom rug. She'd And she read I.F. Stone Weekly and introduced me to a lot of interesting thoughts and themes, and somehow I got the feeling that I should, if I'm going to be an artist, be sort of a socialist artist, kind of. But I mean, I'm not socialist, really. I'm just want to show the truth. The truth 24 times a second.
20.
And thanks to Zack Beans and Richard Taylor, I was enabled to do that once again on Poultrygeist, Night of the Chicken.
Well, it's definitely something that brought me to your art, because I've seen hundreds of horror movies, but none of them has stuck with me, because in Toxic Avenger, Class of Nukem High, you're talking about, you know, the problems with pollution and radiation, or you're talking about the issues of, you know, corporate greed, you know, trampling, you know, just the small guy out there. And that's something I've always appreciated about your films. One of, I guess, a couple films, Toxic Avenger 2 and 3, is about a lot of, you know, the corporate greed going on. But I know that was first one single film. Can you talk about what Toxic Avenger 2 and 3 looked like before it was cut into 2 movies?
I just remember it was sort of Heaven's Gate kind of thing, where it was like 8 hours. And suddenly, and the other thing is that the video, we were required to deliver movies to, because the video boom was going on.
Yeah.
So while we were shooting, it looked like we could have an actual ending for part 2, and then have 2 movies, because I had already shot the 2 movies basically. So we shot a kind of a fake not a fake ending, but a pseudo ending for part 2.
When I talked to Rick Collins, he said that he directed that shot of him and Lisa Gay walking down the road like hitchhiking, and he was telling me how he snuck that into the dailies, and you're like, who shot this?
Oh, I'm sure that was his idea. It's very cute. Lisa Gay too, wonderful people. He's still in some of our movies. Rick is in Return to Nukem High and Return to Nukem High.
And Lisa Gay's in hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm.
Yeah,
It's fun seeing her as Professor Holt pop up again.
and my daughter was Professor Holt Jr.
In
with the same hair.
Yes.
And Subhumanoid Meltdown.
Class of Nukem High 2.
Part 2. Yeah.
Which daughter was that? Was that
Lily Hayes?
Awesome. The story wise of part 2 and 3, when it was one movie, was it pretty similar story structure to how it is now, or did you guys completely rearrange in the edit to make it 2 movies?
I don't. I'm trying to remember who was the editor. I can't. Who was the editor? I don't remember. I'm sure we were rearranging stuff. Must have been. I know for Citizen Toxie, I think for most of our movies, we shoot material well after principal photography, and very often on the roof of the Troma building in Hell's Kitchen or in Long Island City, and little cutaways that we need, or something to make the scene comprehensible, little things like that. There's a lot of that going on when I'm making a movie.
I stumbled across on Facebook one of the effects artists. The name's slipping me right now, but he posted a picture of like a burnt little baby that he's like, we blew this up in Toxic Avenger Part 2, and I don't remember that in the movie, so obviously it got cut. But do you remember anything about like a baby getting blown up in Toxic Avenger 2 or 3?
Well, no. My daughter Charlotte in 3, I think it is, got blown up into a tree.
Into the tree.
Yeah, she was also
But she was okay.
Toxie pulls her out of the tree. She had on sunglasses like Sarah with a little cane, I think, or something.
Which that's the only baby I remember.
Yeah,
in the films.
I think that's what they must be referring to.
But yeah, it was just bizarre because he had like a prop of like a burnt
a
baby.
burnt. I don't remember that. I honestly, maybe it didn't look real enough, or maybe it looked too real.
Yeah, no, I was just curious about that. I was like that because I mean, obviously, she survived. She's farting all over Sarah.
Yeah. I don't know. Times have changed. Maybe we thought it was too much, but I don't think so. I just have no recollection. I usually remember stuff like that.
One thing that is kind of sadly like present in your entire body of work is your struggle against free speech with the MPAA, and then like even when you were brought on the Morton Downey Jr. show, or even the present day with cancel culture. And I know you tackle cancel culture in #Shakespeare Shitstorm, but can you talk about how it's been different, fighting like the MPAA as opposed to like people on Twitter or just different talk shows trying to shut down what you have to say?
Well, my grandmother had a big framed political cartoon of Senator McCarthy ripping up the Bill of Rights, kind of political style cartoon.
Yeah.
But it was a big framed picture. And same thing, blacklist, then MPAA, a double standard where it's okay for Bruce Willis to have blood all over the place, but not okay for Troma's War, which is a goofy, cartoony movie that came out after Bruce Willis's serious, violent Death Wish. No, not Death Wish.
Die Hard.
Die Hard, sorry, Die Hard. Just it's autocratic. It's disgusting, and then it just keeps going. Now you have the people who are judging what is woke and what isn't, and the gatekeepers at the various giant media company put everything through a strainer, and oh gosh.
Do you find it harder now to get your message out than back in like the 70s or 80s, or was it harder back then?
Well, I think now we have free speech as long as we don't say anything. Back then we could sort of say anything. At least we didn't get, I don't remember. I mean, we were economically blacklisted.
Yeah.
There's always a blacklist. They always figure out something. Luckily, I've been born white, so I have at least that go. I think I'm, well.
Well, you're, as you said in #Shakespeare Shitstorm, it's like, do you consider Jewish white? Sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, imagine how difficult it's been, and imagine if you're not white. What you can't imagine.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough of that. But you asked that question.
Just kind of how you've noticed, like, just either like the big elites keeping you quiet as opposed to cancel culture today, just how it's different, or if it's the same beast but just a different face.
I think it's just a different group of people who want to tell us how to run our lives, and are perfectly happy with double what do you call it? Double value, where you're okay, you can do that, but you can't. Right? I mean, it's not healthy.
And talking about all this, I brought up talk shows. I know you were on the Morton Downey Jr. show, and there was a big controversy. I saw the clip where you and Michael Hers are getting accosted.
No, that's not Michael Hers. That was not Michael Hers. Michael Hers would, by that time, Michael Hers.
He was out of it?
He refused to go on anything. No, definitely not. That was my assistant,
okay.
Arthur. His name was Arthur. And we were hoping to have his mother could see him on TV. It was a WOR, Universal-owned television station. And it was my wife's first night out after giving birth. So we thought, this will be fun. They sent a car for us, and we're in a limousine, look at us. and then you tell the rest of it.
Well,
what
and
happened?
they show a clip from Troma's War, and it seemed like everybody was excited to see you guys, and then until they showed the clip, and then Morton Downey Jr. got the crowd whipped up into a frenzy where it, almost looked like that Geraldo clip where they're throwing the chairs on the stage and they're trying to attack you guys. Tell me more about just that whole experience.
Well, that was a setup. That was pre-planned, except we didn't know about it. It was kind of like Candid Camera or pranks, where they prank. It was like a big prank.
Gotcha.
And we were in the green room, and we did hear the audience screaming and yelling, and my guess is that Downey and the gang whipped him up. And because the way they choreographed it, it was clearly fixed. And
I was always wondering, because you saw people who looked like Troma fans in the crowd with like Toxic Avenger shirts or whatever.
Yeah, at the beginning they loved Troma, but they were told to, I think, thank you so much. I just was given a huge bowl of caviar. It's incredible.
Nothing but the best.
Vegan caviar, so no salmon were hurting us.
I gotta squeeze those turnips really hard.
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
But nothing but the best.
Anyway, I don't know. What are we talking about?
Morton Downey Jr.
Yeah, anyway, it was a setup, so they got their cheap laugh, except that they thought that he suddenly he does a thing with a thumbs up. Should we keep him? Oh yeah, he showed a little bit of Troma's War, raw footage, and they picked a piece of film that had absolutely nothing, had a little bit of blood, but other than that, nothing.
Yeah.
It was like a nothing 5-second clip, and then Downey says, "Shall we keep them or shall we get rid of them?" And we're sitting on the stage with the audience down below us, and my wife in the middle of the audience, just having given birth, and both Arthur and I looked at each other, and Downey puts his, he's telling the audience with his thumb down, what to answer, and they all say, "Yeah, get rid of him, get rid of him," and it was a Halloween thing. That's how they got me to go on. They said it was going to be a Troma Halloween party. They said it was going to be a party, a Troma Halloween party. And the studio where they filmed in was in New Jersey, and that's where Tromaville, New Jersey comes from. So they got us out there and under false pretenses. But then my assistant and I, unexpectedly to the TV people, we refused to move because the people had... they had masks on and fake guns and, fake weapons and penises on their noses. And it was, and my wife's in the middle of it. And Arthur and I didn't want to go down the stage. And to get out, you had to walk through this audience. So we finally, they called in security and beat us up a little bit. And my shoulder got separated and my watch flew off. And
that's one of those.
It's not fun.
That's one of those tales that's in like kind of the Tromaville like urban legends, like bigger than true. Another one that I've always been curious about, and there's always just been murmurs in the background, is that from your books and even just some like sly off the cuff comments on different interviews, that there's bad blood between you and like the filmmakers of Street Trash.
Well, I don't swear to this, but I've been told, and I thought so, that whilst I was being dragged out kicking and screaming, and that Arthur was being dragged out kicking and screaming, some guy connected with Street Trash, not the professor who owns it, but I can't remember. But he went up to the podium. I'm not like them. I'm not like them. I'm a real, New Jersey person or something.
Yeah.
It was something like that, but I don't recall. Maybe it's on the video. But I believe it. I may be wrong, but I believe it was somebody from Street Trash.
Yeah, it's just always
I
been
think I
out.
wrote something in the book.
Yeah,
about it.
but you've only like kind of alluded to it, and I it's just always been like kind of the Troma fanboy. Like I hear Lloyd hates the filmmakers of street trash, and like nobody nobody really knows the story there, and it's so I've asked around. It's like, what do you want to know from Lloyd like that you have never heard? And more than one person is like, I want to know if he actually hates the filmmakers of street trash or hates the movie, or if there was like bad blood that happened there.
No, not at all. Just that whoever that guy was, and he may not have even had anything to do with that movie that rhymes with reed rash.
Yes.
But the producer who owns the movie, I've taught his class. A good guy. And by the way, Justin Martell and I imagine other Troma alums are producing the remake of Street Trash with a really good director.
I think they're shooting that as we're speaking, or they're in
Already?
pre-production.
They're
of
already
it.
shooting?
They're in pre-production of it. The Fried Berry director is doing the Street Trash remake. So
he's great. He's very good, right?
yeah, no, it's just one of those full circle Troma things. Like, oh, that's interesting to know.
Yeah.
Like there was something there. Like and just always curious about that.
Yeah, that is interesting.
And another thing I was always curious about. So there were
the Kruger grocery stores, very good grocery store.
Yeah.
Great director, great grocery stores.
yeah, sometimes it pops up in your dreams.
Exactly.
Another thing I always kind of wondered about, just kind of jumping around a little bit more. Like, so after Kabuki Man, there was a gap in between Kabuki Man and Tromeo and Juliet, and that's kind of around the time Troma Team Video started. And there's not a lot of just information out there on like what you and Michael were like, why you chose to set up your own distribution label like Troma Team Video, because before you'd go through like media or Warner Brothers or other companies like that to put the movies out.
Sorry, I just had to wet my whistle, as we say.
The altitude here in Colorado,
Yeah,
it's all
that's
dried
right.
out.
That's it. Yep. I'll never forget Jeffrey Lyons, one of our great critics, curated the film festival in Breckenridge Film Festival, and Jeffrey had Pat and me come out, and he showed some Troma movies, and it was great. But oh my God, I didn't realize that. You get drunk out here, and
You gotta take it
Jesus
easy.
Christ! I'll never forget that hangover. Yeah, you're right. That's why I guess I'm a little bit
a little parched.
Parched, yes, exactly.
Oh, hit the whistle. But anyways, yeah. Back to
Nature.
What made you guys want to start the Troma Team Video label as opposed to finding other distributors? Or was that more of a necessity thing to keep the doors open?
I think we were getting big advances, but then the majors started to rise with Blockbuster, and they started to push out the mom and pop stores. Which then pushed out a lot of Vestron and Media Home Entertainment, who were the big distributors for the independents, but couldn't compete with the James Bond or whatever was coming out through the majors. And then Blockbuster put out the business. They basically put the little guys and gals and put them out of business.
One of the things I always liked in the Troma Team videos was like the Tromaville cafes or the wraparounds, which I liked the movies that you guys were doing, but one of the things that kept me coming back for more was seeing you and Kabuki Man talking about a film, or Michael Hers and you talking about something, or even just a skit with the stars of the next movie, and like it made everybody feel like they were part of the Troma team and part of the Troma project. Like, we're getting this sneak peek, and you guys are doing little sketches for us. Can you talk about filming like Tromaville Cafe or some of those wraparounds?
Well, it's been a while.
Yeah.
But I think we've always felt that we must bring our fans into the family. That without our fans, we're nothing. And even when there was only 35 millimeter, we sent the stars of Squeeze Play down to Norfolk, Virginia. That was the American premiere. It was a one weekend, but we sent them down there and put them in Motel 6s or whatever. Probably lots of people in a room. Well, no, I think they had their own rooms. At any rate, it was unusual for Norfolk to have the, new, and it did great, and it was a huge hit. It was a sneak preview, but then AMC had wanted to play it everywhere. That one sneak preview.
That's awesome. And then.
But the idea was to be interactive with our fans, and we really have done that from the very beginning. Really, no matter what the medium was, it was really thanks to our fans that would. Well, you for sure.
I mean, I've even had the opportunity to be in some of those DVD intros that really helped me discover, just more Troma movies, or just even attached to it, even if I like the special features you guys are doing more than the film, or it just helped me learn a little more. What I want to know though, do you have any stories of filming like Tromaville Cafe or any with like the early Tromettes? Because it has such a a 90s feel and look, which is obviously when it was made, but the humor in it is something special that you don't really see too much else in Troma movies or other medium.
Well, honestly, it's all a blur. When was Tromaville Cafe?
That was probably around like the mid 90s, like right around a little bit after the inception of Troma Team Video.
Jeez. My hunch is that if it was really funny, that James Gunn had something to do with it, because
I think it was some of those were a little bit before his time.
Oh, before James Gunn. Now let's think, because Gabe Friedman, James Gunn, Gabe Friedman, responsible for great stuff, funny short stuff. I wonder who Tromaville Cafe. I just can't remember. I don't know.
Yeah, no worries. It's just one of those things that I've
glad
always
you enjoyed it. That's great.
They're just so funny, and seeing like Debbie Rashawn like interact with like Kabuki Man and just Action Come News Reporter, and seeing everybody like just being so giddy and excited to talk about like screenplay it was just one of the things that made Troma stand out to impressionable high school Zack Bynes.
Well, that's really great to hear, let me tell you.
Did with all of the movies, was there any like movie posters that you liked that like stuck out? You're like, this is like one of the coolest movie posters we have.
Good question. I did love the screenplay, since you mentioned screenplay. I love that film.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yet we couldn't give it away. It was in black and white, and when it came out, it was not. We had 35 millimeter prints.
I did an episode on that one.
Now I think screenplay would be great, but the idiots don't want to. Well, maybe it is on. I don't know what's going on with our streaming, but I think
it is on Troma now.
Well, I meant not those idiots. I meant the ones on Amazon and no, they are not. The people running Troma now are doing a great job, and thank you very much. No question about it. No, the other things.
Just like Paramount or the big.
Yeah, a screenplay may well be on some of those, but when it came out, nobody would touch black and white. Nothing.
And it's
nothing.
That movie is so cool because
it's amazing.
It's like a weird noir, like The Cabinet of Dr. Calgary. If it was a noir movie, it's so cool, and it just like the story of making a movie. And George Cukor.
Yes, exactly. So it's a historic, and Rufus Seder like the Passover meal. Seder. What do you think of that? At any rate, you cannot have Rufus and milk in the same room. Very important. At any rate, he has become a very important mosaic artist. and a number of airports have his art in the floors and on the walls and the mosaic. So he's good spirits. I haven't seen him for a number of years, but it was very good spirits.
I would love for him to make another movie, but his artwork is crazy.
Yes.
And he's invented mediums, that's just mind-boggling that you could still be inventing forms of art, and he's doing it. So
yeah, well, also his movie, he did all the. This is before CGI and all that, and he did. Rufus Sater did all the. If I remember correctly, did all the opticals.
There's crazy opticals and rear projection, and it's one of the more FX heavy Troma movies that's out there, and because it's black and white, I don't know if people have given it
No, that was the curse. Unfortunately, in its day, the black and white just wasn't nobody, and we did VHS, but it didn't work. And
I like the tagline, the special decolorized version.
Yes, we tried everything.
But
it's a beautiful movie,
and it's really funny.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about some of the movie posters though that were like your favorites that came through? I know like Trisha Zemeck did a lot of like just beautiful artwork, but like if you had to pick a few of your favorite posters, not movies, but just posters that have been on your stuff.
Well, in the fullness of time, certainly the iconic Toxic Avenger cartoony poster by Sid Blaze. It's wonderful, simple, and but at the time when he made it, in fact, even before he made it, we had another poster where you don't see Toxie's face, which is great. I love that one too. But
is that one where like kind of the sun is behind?
That's
his
right.
head?
Yeah, he's Toxie's silhouetted, and it's got a great style to it. But the didn't. We were hoping that people would want to know what does he look like, Toxie, but since we don't advertise, it was better to show Toxie's face. And Sid Blaze did this wonderful, very, very penetrating image that is with the mop, and it's iconic now. So,
it's such like when you see somebody with a mop, like it's right away. It's so iconic. Like I think of Toxie, but that could just be me. But
no, you're right.
It's right. It's like kind of built into the American DNA at this point. Like that imagery,
weird, isn't it? Yeah. The phrase "you mop" has become very popular. President Biden just said that to
he's a big Troma fan, from what I understand.
Yes, he is. He likes Rabid Grannies very much.
I seem to remember that. Beware Children at Play, he would show to his sons before bedtime.
That's right. Yes, exactly. Was it Gringo?
Story of a Junkie.
Yeah, I think he and Hunter used to watch that. They used to bond together, father and son.
They would watch it in the Chelsea hotel together.
That's it. Could well be.
So you've been you have tons of fans and stuff around the world, and one of the things about Troma fans that I've seen, there's some really rabid ones that have tattoos of the Toxic Avenger. Do you remember the first time you saw a Troma tattoo, and what did that feel like? Like that's got to be weird, right?
I don't remember, but I can tell you that I probably had to change my underwear. Let's put it that way, because that's a big deal that somebody would.
It's probably a lot more common to see Troma and Toxie tattoos now, but I can only imagine like the first few that you saw.
It blew my mind. You said it. And then occasionally there's my face on people's inner thighs, that kind of thing. I think about that.
Your face was on some inner thighs before.
Yes,
but,
exactly.
Not always tattooed.
Oh, that's
another podcast.
That's my university days. My salad years.
the salad tossing
the
days.
Tossing salad years.
Well, and one thing I like in your career is that there's definite like here is this era, the sexy comedy era, or as people refer to, like the Toxic Avenger through Kabuki Man, like the golden era, and then like the new era where it starts with Tromeo and Poultrygeist. Was there a conscious effort to kind of go more shocking from like Kabuki Man, which is pretty friendly, like a more friendly movie than Tromeo, and they kind of become more offensive as they go on to some viewers? Was that a conscious effort, or is that just kind of the evolution that was natural?
Good thing you tacked on to some viewers.
I don't think they're offensive. Like I show.
I was waiting for that. Believe you me.
Because I show the movies to friends. Yeah. And it's this is what it is. It's a work of art, but they're like, oh my good, the pearl clutching.
You have to tell a lot of people, they don't get it. What are you going to do?
And we officially first met on Poultrygeist.
Yes, we did.
And so my first few weeks there, I was scrubbing the McDonald's, just keeping it clean. And I remember one day you came to the church before I met you, and I did not have a job that I was working on. They're like, do you want to meet Lloyd? I was like, I don't want Lloyd to see me not working like the first time. Like, Mr. Kaufman, I really like the Toxic Avenger. Thank you for letting me work on your film. So the first time I met you was inside of the chicken bunker, and you came up to me and you were like, you went to Columbine, right? And we just kind of hit it off. Right off the bat, where you engaged.
Columbine, I couldn't possibly have said that.
No, I don't think so.
But that was Gabe Friedman. He said that.
You trusted me and Richard.
That was Richard Taylor. He said that.
Yeah, it must have been the fog of time.
Exactly.
It clouds things over.
I was getting you to the prayer meetings. We had 7 a.m. prayer meetings, don't you remember? And you and Richard, I tried to get you to come.
It was 6 a.m. rap, 7 a.m. prayer meetings, and
couldn't get you to do it. Anyway, go on.
But just from that brief interaction, and you remembered me and Richard made a short film for the Toxic Avenger 21st anniversary DVD, and you and Gabe remembered that, and you trusted us with doing the blood on that film, which little did we know when we were like, of course we'll make the blood for this movie, that was going to be a whole nother
20 hours a day of mixing various types of blood too, because you can't just go with the sugar.
You can't always do corn syrup. Sometimes it
clogs up the surgical tubing.
And
well, not that so much, but the tubing, it really clogs up. And no, you're right. The fire extinguishers, otherwise that's why it looks like water when it comes out.
But like you had us all learn on set. Richard calls himself the R2D2 of Tromaville because he was stuck inside that meat grinder.
Oh, that's right.
Spinning that around and spraying blood out.
That meat grinder was quite a feat. I mean, Poultrygeist is for the money. It was again under $500,000. That's with the 300 chicken Indian zombies in the middle of the night and singing and dancing and the whole thing. We lived in a church, which was where we shot the sex scene.
So that was funny. We were allowed to shoot sex scenes inside of the church. That was okay.
Yeah.
But
so you had a lot of sex scenes inside that church.
For this,
a lot of hookups in there.
The stank inside of that church was it was the natural pheromones permeating through everything.
Mixed with a delightful, politically correct sauce of swamp ass to make a perfect burrito.
The aroma du Troma,
exactly.
As it's been called. But
it was ironic because keep going.
Oh, no.
You were saying the hamburger McDonald's place.
McDonald's they wouldn't let us shoot.
No nudity there.
That was not okay. At the most robbed McDonald's in America.
Yeah, how weird is that? And it was abandoned. It was
we had all the people coming up either looking for jobs or drugs.
Or shooting at us.
That was horrifying.
Shooting at us. And then the church is where we replicated part of the American chicken bunker, and that's where the sex was.
Well, I think that's funny too.
Beautiful sex.
We went out. One of the few.
Imagine.
It was glorious.
It was everybody. Close set with about 200 people on the set watching.
I was
the close set.
I was not invited on that close set. Those were that was the only days I was not on there. But I will say my sleeping bag was underneath some of the people on those close sets.
Nice, lucky you.
I
That's
got
one lucky sleeping bag.
Scrape that off before I went to bed.
I would have liked to be that sleeping bag.
The black mold was envious. I was envious of that black mold of that crew down there. But I've heard from other people who've worked on some of the newer Troma films, like Return to Nukem High or Shitstorm, or even Citizen Toxie, that Poultrygeist was probably one of the more grueling of all the shoots. From your perspective, would you agree with that, or was there a harder film that you shot?
Well, the documentary about the making of Poultrygeist is hilarious. But it's the unvarnished truth of how difficult it is to make a Troma movie. And you see right, the camera guy almost got, the director of photography got, I don't know if he
started a fist fight.
Yeah, a fist fight, and almost got his ass kicked. And people fall in love and proposed in the documentary, and I mean, there's everything going on in that. And you see how difficult Poultrygeist was to make, and what a jerk I was in a large part of the event, screaming at people, and then in the middle of the night, we chose to shoot the nighttime scene with 300 zombie Indian chickens, the shortest night of the year, so we're battling the clock. And the DP insists that it's time for a cheeseburger.
We need pizza.
No, cheeseburger.
Oh, yeah, no, he refused
cheeseburger.
pizza.
Yeah, it had to be cheeseburger. So we had to give him an hour, whatever it was, losing daylight. And he's inside reading, and he's the only one. He's reading a newspaper with his feet, legs crossed. And he was a great guy. Just somehow in that movie, he became the little
kind of the bad guy in the behind the scenes documentary.
Yeah, it's weird because he's
have you
did
talked
a great
to
job.
Have you talked to Brendan Flint after that, or do you know how he feels about how he showed up in that documentary?
I don't know. I don't recall. I don't know that he's been in touch since then. I think he lives in Europe with a beautiful wife.
Okay.
I believe he has a knockout.
One thing that the documentary doesn't show, which took me aback and made me realize one thing I want to do, how I run my sets, was at the end of the day, no matter the arguments, or like sometimes during shooting, like you just might not, like any of us might not like each other because we're at ends artistically or whatever, but at the end of the day when we wrapped, you went around to every single person on set, whether it was the lead person or somebody who was driving to and from set, and you personally thanked them, and it wasn't lip service. Like you could tell it was a deep, heartfelt thank you.
You said it,
and that's something that none of the behind the scenes documentaries show. And that really impressed me that was something that you did, and I've taken that to heart on everything I've ever done after that. To like, it meant a lot on, especially on some of those tough days on Poultrygeist. Like we're arguing in a shit covered bathroom.
Oh my God! Yeah,
like that was probably the worst day for me on set, was Joe Flyshaker's shit day.
Yeah, the diarrhea, exploding diarrhea.
It just, nothing worked right, and we were all angry with each other. But at the end of the day,
it was a tough day.
You still gave us a heartfelt thank you.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, seriously, people sleeping. Yeah, I mean, it's not that long ago I was doing that. I'm practically doing it to this day, learning to shit in a paper bag. I mean, it's. I can feel it. It's in my blood. I'm still grabbing the bread from the free breakfast if I'm up early enough or whatever. But by the way, the breakfast here in the
that's what I'm going to sample.
I don't want to say the name of the hotel, but apparently it's really great.
That's what I hear.
Free omelets should come in. It's too early. That's the problem. It's very early.
Yeah.
But speaking of poultry guys with eggs,
that's exactly what I wanted to hear about.
exactly. No yolk.
Yeah, you're cracking me up.
Ah,
We shall not do that again.
you are so shellfish. You're very shellfish.
Well, I want to kind of jump a little more to hashtag Shakespeare shitstorm.
Okay.
So
But we may have to kind of wind this down
I
because we're getting weak. But we could all go out and have a bite to eat if you want.
I think we'll wind this down after this, but I do want to.
We can do another session too.
Oh, we'll definitely have to. I think this will be the good kind of the intro to Lloyd, and we'll do more on that. But just a couple more things before we really wind down.
Sure.
So I watched Battle of Love's Return before this weekend, and I noted
the lip gloss is very it's sweet. It's rather tasty.
Ooh, you're right. It is.
It's nice. Yeah.
But anyway, so
I want more.
I was watching Battle of Love's Return, and in one of the opening scenes of that film, your father quotes Shakespeare, and I noticed at the end of hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm that you're probably similar in age to when he shot that as to when you shot hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm, and you're giving your soliloquy, and it felt like, and I've heard you say in other interviews, this might be the last movie you direct, and it felt like kind of like a perfect bookend of your filmmaking career. Was that intentional, or is that...
No, not intentional, but I certainly was extremely moved by the Revel speech, which is the scene you're talking about, and the fact that my daughters are in the shot with me, talking about our revels now are ended. These are actors are just these are they're just dreams, and we are such stuff as dreams are made of, and meanwhile my daughters are in the scene, and kind of has several. Yeah, I did tear up. Luckily, our crew took so fucking long to put the lights on that I think I gave better rehearsals. But
I don't know if I've had.
I was a bit teary in that.
I don't know if any of your films had ever made me like weep before, but that scene did.
Thank you.
And I think it just shows through your career that you are a powerful filmmaker.
Thank you. My stepmother, Sigrun, for whom hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm is dedicated, along with Stan Lee and John J. Avildsen, she wept during Toxic Avenger. So we had the first screening. It was an investor screening, and my father brought her, Sigrun, my stepmother, and Leni Riefenstahl, and who brought some kind of big German judge to see the first commercial, first investor screening of the Toxic Avenger. And it was a great evening.
I don't know if you're fucking with me. Did Leni Riefenstahl actually?
Yeah, yes, because she'd stay with my stepmother and father, and by the time Toxic Avenger came along, she was interested.
Oh my goodness!
She showed up, and unfortunately, we didn't have digital cameras. I mean, if we would have had it, it would have been great to film some of that. And she was literally staying with my father and Sigrun numerous times, and we had we had dinner with her. We went to hung out.
Did you
taught us how to cook with the ovens? I mean, it was terrific.
It must have been a gas. Did
special Thanksgiving dinner?
Did you and Leni Riefenstahl share any tricks of the trade?
Well, my wife and I were like really didn't want to screw around because the woman, it was one of the greatest filmmakers of all time.
Yeah,
and she was just a woman trying to have a career, and if she had come to New York, Leni Riefenstahl would have been cutting negative for Disney or something, doing an anonymous, woman, chattel.
Yeah,
and so I understand that she had an opportunity, and she was a movie star in Germany, very beautiful. These Alpine films, she served her time. I mean, What?
Yeah.
What are you gonna? She didn't. I don't think she really burned up anybody.
Yeah.
There was some talk that she had something going with Hitler. There, historians have suggested that she defecated on Hitler. And, so I don't know if that's true, but it
maybe
turns
just a
me
shitty
on,
rumor.
So I sure got a lot of boner out of that. I tell you, it was amazing.
But I want to know.
Talk about surf Nazis. I did not create surf Nazis must die, but
You had the
but,
foresight to put it out.
yeah, oh yeah, the stupidity probably, but that actually is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful film, and when it came out, it was a bit just the idea of Nazi, but and we pushed it big at Cannes, and luckily people saw it the right way.
Well, I think it's
And
also
Michael Hers changed the title to "Must Die." Rather, it was just surf Nazis originally.
I think that and it's a funner title now.
Yeah, well, like how do you can't criticize it or say must die,
It's
but
not
it was people were pissed off by it. Even the Surf Nazis Must Die title back in the mid '80s, and I think we got lucky because Ebert or Rex Reed, one of them was curious at Cannes and went to see it at the Cannes Film Festival. We went to theaters and went through. We had big posters in front of the Carlton Hotel with "Surf Nazis Must Die," and there were a couple of serious critics who saw it and saw that it was a good film with beautiful photography of the surfing stuff.
I'm a surf movie nerd, and like that's some of the best like of that era surfing footage.
The guy who shot Any Wednesday for director. Red October or something.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
It begins with D, maybe. Anyway, it's very good, serious director. But anyway, that camera person did the surfing in Surf Nazis Must Die. Peter George is the
also did Young Goodman Brown. 50.
Yes, indeed.
Another Troma classic.
Well, also, I'm a Rappaccini. I told you earlier, I'm a Hawthorne freak. So Peter, when he came to us with that, and it wasn't finished, and we finished it, and it had a star in it. I can't remember who it was, but sort of a star.
Yeah.
But we lost our ass on that one.
Well, I want to wrap this up, but one thing...
and Young Goodman Brown is a fine movie. It's Hawthorne. My God, what the hell? And we couldn't make 2 cents.
Maybe it should have said, from the director of Surf Nazis Must Die comes Hawthorne's most explosive story, Young Goodman Brown.
Exactly. That's how we should have done it. Yeah, we should have done it that way. That's a great idea. Should contact Peter George. And you should interview him.
I would love to.
Surf Nazis is all his, and the producer, whose name slips my mind, but they're great guys and wonderful movie. They just were way ahead of their times.
Oh, definitely. I want to wind this down, but one thing myself and I know other people who love Troma and want to know like what is the future for Troma, especially in the next like after maybe you and Michael pass on, is the company gonna go to your daughters, or what's the future for Troma?
That I don't know, but to some extent Troma has a life of its own. Certainly the Toxic Avenger, among other things, lives on, so I imagine those movies would be, we want them to stay in a group. So I would guess at some point someone will pop up. But Michael Hers is a bit younger than I am. I know he looks much older, but he is actually 4 years younger than I. And no, I'm joking. Michael is very, very attractive. He's funnier and nicer and much more attractive. But he just doesn't like he's very private, very private.
Well, tell him I really want to talk to him.
Yeah, no, don't worry, I will. And my daughter, Lily Hayes, and Charlotte Kaufman, who've been making a long-term documentary sort of dealing with our family, they want to talk to him, too. So, And there's a guy writing a book about me. You ought to talk to him. He's a librarian of Dartmouth University.
Oh, cool.
And has a very great knowledge of history of cinema. Yeah, freaky guy too, nice guy.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on and being candid, and we'll have to have you back. I want to have you back on so we could talk, more about like the terraformers and Citizen Toxies, and there's so many other there's so much, but like we can't have like a 12-hour interview.
We can do it. I don't know about tomorrow because I have to leave at 2, but we can do Zoom, can't we?
Yeah, we could do
like
Zoom,
that.
But this first one, it was important that we did it in person.
I'm glad we did it live. Yeah,
so thank you so much, Lloyd. And where for those out there who don't know where they can follow you.
First of all, thank you, Zach Beans, for being so generous with your time and being you and Richard Taylor and Zack Fester,
Eastman.
Jack Eastman, Kodak. Founder of Kodak. It's incredible. Right here with Kodak. Isn't Kodak come from?
He's swimming in money. We'd be living in a penthouse right
Came from Colorado, I'm sure.
Yeah.
At any rate, thank you very much for spreading the Troma love in Colorado and, getting that screening the other night at the Sea Cultural Center. That's because of your work with Richard and spread to the wonderful Colorado Festival of Film Festival of Horror, and boy, was that the best audience. We couldn't have had
it. Was a lot of fun.
Yeah, great, and you guys interacted with the fans, and they loved you, and Adam the Killer Zombie, Adam the
amazing
zombie killer.
It's getting late out there for the.
Yeah, well, I'm on New York time too, so I'm a little bit, and I'm sky high on cat tranquilizers, so it all comes together.
It's called cheesing, where you sniff the glands of the cat.
Oh, thank you. I knew there was a name for it.
Yeah, so you've been cheesing with us out here. But no, thank you so much. And where on the social medias can people find more about what you're up to, or just Troma stuff in general?
Well, I spend a lot of time on cheesing.com. Very good site, really good.
That's knocked down the manholeclub.com.
Well, the vegan cheesing, because it's a vegan podcast.
They use almond butter, I think, to
boy butter.
Boy butter. With
That's
a sprinkling of nutritional yeast, right?
That's the official butter of the old Troma team.
Truffle butter.
It's wonderful. At any rate, if you want to hear more about Troma, go to Talkin Troma, what they can learn all about it.
Yeah,
Troma Now. We should talk about Troma Now. Tell them about Troma Now, Zach.
is the only place where Adam the Amazing Zombie Killer is streaming. And all the films I talk about on my show are on Troma Now, watch.troma.com, and it's on Roku and several other devices.
It's an app, right?
Yeah, it's an app. It's $4.99 a month, which is cheaper than all the mega conglomerates.
What about the first month? What if you're not
free.
sure?
It's free.
What?
It's free.
So you can cancel after a month?
Yeah, you can just sign up with another email address and get...
Perfect. Well, so why... What are we waiting for?
I've gone through all the old ex-Troma employees' email addresses who don't work there anymore. So I'm about out of free
FBI's going and knocking on all these people's doors, stealing the
Who's this guy who keeps watching Eve's Beach Fantasy?
And being disappointed. Where's the penis? I don't see one penetration. That's terrible.
I was looking for those Louis Sue films.
Yeah, well...
But
he's a very difficult man.
But no, yeah, Troma Now it's amazing, and it's the perfect spot for me to do research.
What do? You go to the App Store and buy the Troma Now.
You just download the app and then you sign in.
It's free.
You create your login and it's free.
And you can meet people there too.
Yeah, so on some of them, like the phone app and on the website, there's message boards underneath the movies, and you could talk back and forth. I know sometimes you participate in that as well.
I have participated, yeah.
And yeah, you could leave a little review on the movies on there, or sometimes you can ask questions about the making of the movies. And I've seen some of the filmmakers hop in on there
and talk
too.
about it, and the commentary track. If you, for example, let's say you want to see the Sergeant Kabuki Man NYPD and learn why it's less disgusting than most of our movies. There's a lot. You can get that on Troma Now. You can get the movie, and then you can watch it again with the commentary, and a lot of the questions are answered there.
Or even the drunken commentary for Cannibal the Musical, which
that's Trey and Matt. They were way ahead of their time.
And that's probably one of the most infamous commentaries that's
hilarious.
out there.
Yeah, and they were funny. And the thing is, there's hundreds of young men who are getting drunk, and they're not funny. And you listen to the commentary. Oh, Jesus, it's awful.
I mean,
it's like being with a drunk at a cocktail party.
They
repeat together. Yeah, you know.
They get so drunk they turn the microphone off at some point during
Trey
the commentary,
and
it's still hilarious.
Yeah, Trey and Matt are great. Yeah.
But awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lloyd. And I always like to wrap it up with the crowd. Everybody out there, stay traumatized.
Oh, thank you, Zack.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zack Bean, and thank you to the good state of Colorado.
Ooh, and thank you for your warm embrace.
Oh, hold me. Oh.